This is 𝗕cie𝗂𝘁, podcast for the people.
Well, good afternoon, Tyler. Welcome to the Born or Made podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, exciting. So I always try to kind of start things off light. So where were you born?
I was born in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
All right. I like people from Virginia. That's where I live now. Not from there, but that's where I live now. So grew up there your whole life? Was that where you kind of stayed?
I grew up, until I graduated high school.
Okay.
Stayed in Virginia for college, went to UVA, and then...
Oh, you went to UVA, so you're actually smart. Not only good-looking hair, but you're smart too. You're not.
In state, you can be. You don't have to be as smart.
Yeah, UVA is pretty good. So, what did you? So, tell me about your childhood. So, you grew up in Virginia Beach. You spent a lot of time on the beach, or did you have other interests? Were you doing sports or music, or?
Yeah, did some sports, and we spent the summers on the boat more than the beach. Just kind of out boating and doing wakeboarding and all that stuff.
Oh, you did wakeboarding?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that was always fun.
Yeah, I was a beach lifeguard for a few years, which was kind of fun as well. So.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So is that, I'm always kind of confused about that area. So that's all just Virginia Beach is really the beach part? Because I know you have like Newport News, but that's kind of more inland shipyard, right?
Yeah, so you can call it Hampton Roads.
Yep, Hampton Roads. That's
multiple,
the region.
Chesapeake, Hampton, Virginia Beach, Norfolk. And I grew up in Virginia Beach, which is the beach part.
No kidding. So was it fun growing up in that area?
Yeah, it was a great place to grow up. Definitely like a lot of fun. You can kind of get away with a lot, at least back in the day. And it was safe to have fun and make funny mistakes.
Like now, like here, we spend a lot of time here now. Like you can't even get to the beach. So I grew up back way before you were born in the 60s. We would drive. I grew up in Corpus Christi on the Gulf Coast. So we drove dune buggies, like the Volkswagen. And I mean, we were driving on the dunes. It was a free for all. Motorcycles, and what an incredible time to grow up. And then same with you, like not as unrestricted as ours, but I mean, you got, like you said, you just kind of got away with stuff then. Now you can get in a little bit of trouble. I mean, it's on your record for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, it's real and it follows you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you go to school there. Now you're jumping and you're moving a whopping 150 miles away, let's just say, and you're going to UVA. Mm-hmm. So do you have a specific degree you're going, or are you just doing general studies? What are you trying to do at that point?
I ended up getting an undergraduate degree from the business school there.
Really?
With marketing and management focus. I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I'd already kind of started a few things. And the business school, I was surprised, but it's funded by all big corporations. So they didn't really have an entrepreneurship program there. So I ended up starting an entrepreneurship class while I was there to get some credits for the work I was doing on the side. But it was a good basic business education that I could take into the entrepreneurship path that I knew I was going to take.
So when did you graduate from college? What timelines are we talking about?
2001.
Okay, so 2001. So you're getting out. Obviously, we had some big events that year. So you get out of college. What are you doing? I mean, you going straight into corporate world?
I was they posted everyone's jobs on the wall and how much they got salary because it's part of their ranking system at UVA. And myself and two friends did not have corporate jobs. And the three of us decided to move out to California together. One ended up bailing.
So you down at the bottom and it just says 0 or a dash?
And it was intentional, right? I mean, we could have, all the big companies are recruiting from
UVA, absolutely,
business school, but I had no desire at all to do it. And so one of my good friends, he ended up becoming a musician and an actor and a model and moving to New York, and other guy and I moved out to California for me to start the entrepreneurial journey.
So you just hop into your car, van, truck, whatever, and just moved to California?
I did.
So do you have a plan?
I had a plan, but it was based not in reality.
Okay. Shocking.
I had $2,100.
Oh, wow.
Which I was like, I could live forever and I'll start this company and I'll be rich in 6 months. And and I didn't know about things like rent deposit and, all these other things. I was out of money in 3 weeks from arriving in San Diego, completely out of money.
But do you have an apartment yet, or are you still?
I'd rented a.
So you got a month. You got a month to burn
exactly
before reality really kicks in. You got to pay for your electric. Maybe you got an all bills paid one. So what was your great idea that you were going to start?
What was your original? Back then, I don't even remember what that idea. I had so many. I think I had
you just moved out there and you're going to start something.
Start something, and I was going to figure it out when I got out there.
Okay, so you're broke. You have no money. Are you officially like, I got to become a bartender? I got find a job. I mean, what are you doing at that point?
So I started going to a couple networking events, and the first one I went to, I met this guy. He had just sold a technology company, and he had a dream of running for U.S. Congress. And he was like, "Hey, I need someone to like get my office kicked up and my campaign kicked up. Do you want to be the first staff member?"
And you're like, "Are you paying?"
Yeah, like, how much are you paying? And I was like, "I'm in." Like, yes, 100%. Like, I had that was not what I was thinking, but it was really interesting because starting a campaign and running a campaign is a lot like running a business. Your product is a person, and you're getting donations instead of like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he had a little self-funding, so maybe because he had a little bit of money selling. But yeah, I mean, you're raising money all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely recruiting volunteers, raising money, standing out on street corners with political signs up in the air, and doing all that. So it was an interesting job.
So you start that. Is it a 6-month run, 1 year before he actually goes in you're trying to win an election? I mean,
it was about 9 months, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 9 to 12 months, I think, that I started before the election actually happened.
Okay. Everybody wants to know, did he win?
He did not win. We ended up with 40-some% of the vote.
Okay. That's legit. That's not like you just got clean. You got your clock cleaned.
No, and we were in actually a district. I didn't know this at the time. I was in college. I was just looking for some cash, but we're in a district that was not ever going to win. It was gerrymandered for the other party.
Sure. I mean, now that we're all a lot older, we all know that they're kind of all set up that way. Right. That's why all those guys keep getting elected.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an amazing process that we have, I think. Yeah. Okay, so are you officially unemployed at that point again, or how does that work? I mean, he loses.
Yeah, he loses, but couple months we saw
you got to wind everything down.
Yeah, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and so I had recruited a volunteer early on in the campaign, and her and I had started brainstorming ideas for businesses because we saw all right, what are we going to do next? And we were throwing around ideas, and she came back from a trip to Chicago and was like, I figured out what we want to do. It's kind of like all lined up. And she's like, in Chicago, they have these things called the Chicago Sport and Social Club.
Okay.
And it's intramural sports for adults. So like kickball leagues, dodgeball leagues, flag football, softball, that type of thing. San Diego, with absolutely year-round perfect weather, didn't have one, which I think San Diego is the best city in the country.
Weather in America.
Right, because you need to be outside, and it was it was the perfect place, and it did not have one already. And we actually, the day she got the idea, we also both received our tax refund check, and we're like, that's startup capital. We got 60 days. Let's make this happen. It was rough.
Okay, so how did you start it and keep moving it, and how did it go?
Yeah, I mean, it was slow moving. I had big dreams, and it was a challenge.
Then reality sets in. Yeah.
I was 22. Had my ego could not deliver on what I believed I could do.
Thank
and
God.
Yeah,
you need that. Trust me. Yeah.
So I had a lot of belief in myself that was probably unearned, but we trudged through it. We launched with just one volleyball league with basically 30 of our friends. And over I ran it for 7 years before I sold it. And when I sold it, we had about 25,000 members in San Diego. So, it was.
And not just volleyball, obviously.
We had 35 different sports. We started
35. I didn't even know there were 35.
Yeah, we started making them up. We started coming up with some good stuff.
No kidding. Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably a little bit of drinking going on, right?
It's a sport and social club.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. I thought I was like, this would be, because I remember back when I was young, we played softball in Texas. Everybody played sports. So we played softball, and then we did flag football. We really did that so we could drink while doing the event.
there was, had to keep it on the DL in San Diego at that time. But there was definitely, that was part of the experience.
I guess technically we were in county facilities, but nobody said anything. I mean, it wasn't like we were all, there's occasionally somebody got stupid or whatever, but if you were cool, they didn't care, man. Nobody.
And then we also set up partnerships with the local bars. So as soon as you were done with the game, everyone went to the local bar and got a discount for food and drinks.
Great marketing idea, because man, they're like, bring it on.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all the teams from that night would go to the same place, so they got to interact with each other. And we gave away like T-shirts for everybody.
You're guaranteed 100, 200 people. That's huge.
On a Tuesday night. Or Monday night, which are the slow nights, at these places. So
highest markup in the place is booze.
Right.
Wow, what a great idea. So I bet you got a lot of free drinks, what you're telling me.
We got free drinks, and we learned over time, some of the bars would even like cut us in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give you a little kickback. Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't kickback, but contractually, there's nothing wrong with that. It's beneficial for both of you.
Exactly.
It's a good incentive for both of you.
So it was nice.
No kidding.
So it was part of our business model.
So by this time you're around 30.
Yeah, I was 28, 27, 28 when I sold the company.
And why'd you sell?
It was personal. I had not learned to like live a healthy life, and I just had burnt myself out. I was totally burnt out.
So you were single, you were just working all the time.
All the time. Yeah. I had no balance, no nothing. And like my health was kind of giving out. And I just had no.
I would have been drinking a lot at that age, like a lot. If I would have had that job, I might have had to, gone to AA or something at that point. I could, if I would have had that job, I would 100% probably been a full blown alcoholic.
Yeah, luckily that wasn't my challenge at that time, but I was just not taking care of myself.
Yeah, I could just,
but it was easy to do.
But you're staying up late. You're not eating good. You're probably not doing a lot of exercise because you're working all the time. It's a common, it isn't, I'm just throwing around the drink because it's just funny, but it's a trifecta. You're screwing everything up.
Yeah. You're working in the office all day doing the business. And then every night of the week, there's an event. There's 20 events every night, and
you're bouncing between them, making sure, of course, you're facilitating them all.
Mm-hmm. And then
so how many employees would you have to keep up with all that?
Yeah, we had 25 full time, and then another like 40 part time, like referees and things like that. Jeez, so it was that's
actually a real business. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in my 20s and, had not really learned. I don't think I look back now as like about leadership, and I was, doing my best. It was a lot of, it was a lot of making it up as I went.
Yeah. And you see all these guys on TV or whatever, or even writing, and they all were in the same spot. I remember the first plant I ran, I was a terrible manager of people. I was just terrible, but I was similar. I was young. I thought I could do anything. I had it all figured out. And then you look back, of course, for me now, I look back 30 years from back, and I'm like, wow, what a dumbass. But that's where youth and believing in yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to, right? So that is a great thing. You still have that ability. You just position it a little bit differently. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you sell this thing, you're still in California. So do you stay in California at that point?
I do. I moved up north about 45. I was down in central San Diego, and I moved up north about 40 minutes to a much calmer little beach town.
Was that kind of a reboot at that point?
It was. With a company like that, I knew a lot of people, and it was just, I always had to be on people. Yeah. And I didn't like that. I always thought it'd be fun to I call it being locally famous. I was famous for 10 square blocks. Yeah. And but I didn't like it. I needed to
But you were famous in those 10 square blocks.
In a certain way.
Yeah, I know. I'm just being funny, but yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I just got out of town, and it was 45 minutes north, and moved up there. Took some time off. I called it my quarter life crisis.
Quarter life. Okay. I like that. No, I know, but that's good. Yeah.
Or trying on retirement. That was the other way I tried to position it.
So what do? How long do you just kind of lay low? And then, eventually you're going to go I can't be doing this all my life. This is crazy. So.
Yes. But surprisingly, it took about 3 weeks, because I had been working since I was 15, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
20s, I hadn't taken a break for, almost 15 years. And so I was scared. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, well, surprisingly, within 3 weeks, I like readjusted to not having to like do anything. And like, I ended up like, having friends that were also not working and they were on the beach every day. And it was nice to like, I needed a year to like regain my health. I was like, just focused on health that year and regaining it. And so that was really nice. And then I probably took another year to figure out, okay, I got to like get back to work and like,
eventually,
change, get the momentum going. So it was about 2 years, really.
And did you stay up there that whole 2 years in that general area?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I was up there for another 7. So I was down in Pacific Beach for 7 and another 𝗕cie𝗿𝗁 for 7 years. So.
And then, so tell me, you get through this, you said you took a couple of years off, then where did you jump in? And then next, what was your next thing? Kind of get engaged in?
Yeah, no, I love to be part of the entrepreneurial world, but I was like burnt out on managing people. And so I was like, how do I get involved in this? And so I met some guys that ended up mentoring me that were fractional CFOs.
Yes.
And I was like, this is a way I can get involved with teams and like really help out, but like not have a lot of management responsibilities. And so I started thinking 16 years ago, started doing that, thinking it would be a couple years to figure out what was my next gig. And I'm still doing that today because I love it. I like absolutely love what I get to do.
Yeah, we've got some guys up in our market that are doing that. I didn't know anything about it till about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And for the right size company, it's a great setup.
I find I can add a lot of value and like I love it. I get to learn all these new businesses and all these new industries and like, be part of all these different teams. And I get to work with different leaders, which is one of my favorite things is to see how leaders lead differently. And so I love learning from all of that, like what works, what doesn't, the good and the bad and the ugly. It's been quite a journey to experience all that.
Do you focus on one specific industry or just kind of whatever comes at you?
No, I'm industry agnostic. At this point, I've worked with about 250 companies, so I've seen a lot of different industries.
So obviously you're not doing this by yourself. You got to have other staff working with you. And help.
Well, at one point I started to scale out the company and I realized that like I actually just wanted to be a CFO. Like I didn't like I was starting to manage people again. And I was like, I don't want to run a consulting agency or a CFO agency. I want to
because really that's what you ended up being. That's what you'd be doing.
Yeah, it's people management.
You're
farming out, people to different companies and things like that. And so I just really love being a CFO. And so it's remote work and it's provided me like a pretty amazing lifestyle.
So you're doing it all over the United States? Mm-hmm. Really? And all out of here in this area?
Yeah, I actually don't have any clients around here yet. They're all over the country.
But I mean, you live here, but you're doing it
Yes, exactly.
Really?
And actually for 4 years before COVID, I was called homeless. Some people call it nomadic. I Airbnbs and airplanes. So every month I was in a different country for 4 years straight. I would just fly to a country, rent an Airbnb for a month, hang out, work remote. So it was this incredible like lifestyle and life experience.
He sucks. That sounds so cool. Like I have another guy that I interviewed and keep in touch with him quite regularly, and he does the same thing.
Yeah,
he's all over the place. He read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and it just changed his life. And he's I've read that book. There's aspects that I have actually used now, and it is amazing when you do some of this stuff that seems. Once you do it, it's so simple that it's really not that hard. It's just we get ingrained of this is the way it's supposed to be. Like for you being able to do that and travel and get to see me, what an incredible thing. I mean, because what a great life. I mean,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
It was such an experience. Got to meet.
But are you staying kind of local now? Are you still moving around?
I have been, yes.
You actually have a fixed address, we'll say.
I purchased a house.
Oh, wow, look
in
at
the
you,
middle
big
of COVID.
boy.
I know.
Wow,
I was like, I should be responsible.
Your parents are probably like, thankfully.
Well, it was an old house.
It doesn't matter. It's they're still saying, our boy is finally growing up.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm still growing up.
Who cares? Yeah.
But it was a fixer-upper, so it was a side project because the CFO work takes about 20, 25 hours of my week, and I always have something else going on. And in the last couple of years, my dad was a contractor, and so I really wanted a project to do with him because he's getting older. I wanted something to do so he could pass along some of that knowledge. And so for the last 2.5 years, we spent renovating the house. He's just like getting in there, the two of us like doing the work, and it's been fascinating to learn from him. He's a 50-year contractor, so he knows what he's doing.
So does he move? Did they move down here? Or
No,
just
he'd
bounces?
fly
Yep,
back and
flies
forth about a week a month for a while. We just wrapped that up in December.
So, I mean, you did a complete renovation.
Yeah, down to the studs.
Oh, you took all the sheetrock out?
Everything.
Now, how old was this house?
Built in the 40s.
Oh, wow. So you had like shiplap behind there and certain spots. Probably, did you have insulation?
Newspaper.
Yeah, and it was sunk down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we found some old newspaper sunk in the walls. I did not know why, and my dad explained that.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. Because my parents did that. I think it was a house in the 30s, and yeah, there was no insulation in that entire house, none. We actually found bottles. My dad ended up getting them, still has them 50 years later, 60 years later, still has them. They were antique stuff that he just found in this attic. Same type of deal. I mean, no kidding. So that means new wiring, because I'm sure, did they have aluminum wiring in the 40s? What did they have back then? I mean, because it was
cloth.
Yeah, it was the cloth. I remember that.
I don't know what's underneath of that, but it was not much cloth left.
Galvanized pipes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you do PEX, the plastic piping, or did you
a little bit?
Yeah,
a little bit.
So my house has that stuff, and I've done some renovation stuff. It's the freaking best thing they ever invented.
It's
like
so
that
nice.
stuff is so. I mean, you almost feel like a plumber.
Yeah, I mean, that's
yeah. You don't have to sweat and do copper or any of that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So HVAC, you learned about that. Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Did you do a full HVAC, or did you do splits, or how'd you?
It's full HVAC. It had nothing. It had window units.
Okay.
So now it's got a full. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. So here, do y'all have all your events in the attic, or are they on the floor like in Virginia?
Attic.
Okay.
Well, this house was the attic.
Attic. Okay. Yeah. Because in Texas, where I grew up, everything was up in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Obviously, because we're trying to keep things cool, not hot. And you went to Virginia, and then everything's in the floor.
Right.
Yeah. Where I grew up, the only people that had vents in the floor were the people that lived in single wides, which we happen to live in one of those. So that's why I know. But yeah, so it's very different. So here, what did you learn differently from Virginia? So you're more worried about cooling,
and there was no freeze line really. So
I never even thought about that.
That was something my dad kept bringing up, because he would always have to think about it.
Yeah, because you put in footers, you got to get below the freeze line.
Right. No. And then he'd keep, oh, wait, we don't have to worry about that. And so, so that was an interesting thing about that. What else? I didn't do a lot of this work in Virginia, so I don't know a lot of the differences. My dad was the one that was.
But still, what a great experience.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But I bet you're glad it's done, right?
Oh, my goodness.
I thought I was living in it while you were doing it? Oh, God. We did that twice in our other house. When we moved out to the farm, we lived in an RV. And it was still stressful.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd do it again. And I thought I could get done in 9 months. It took 2.5 years.
You sound like you schedule like I do. We were doing our house, and we did the farm. She was like, how long do you think it's? I said, we'll be done in 60 days. Yeah, it was 7 months.
Yep.
7 months. We lived in an RV in the winter.
Oh, that's
in
rough.
Virginia, and we called it redneck underpinning. The storm was kind of, and this was during COVID, so you couldn't find RV. So we ended up buying this RV out in this field. It was a beater, like 32-foot gooseneck, but it worked, right?
Right.
Well, Cheryl's like, man, what are we going to do? It's going to freeze. I'm like, I don't know. Let me figure this out. So I go down to the hardware store. I bought 50 or 70 bales of straw, and I stacked it up around it and kept my pipes from freezing on that thing. We called it redneck underpinning.
Yeah.
It worked.
That sounds good.
Yeah, we stayed in it, and we survived. We did have some pipes freeze, but we didn't bust any pipes, fortunately.
That sounds like an adventure.
It was fun, actually. We've been married 40 years, but we have great memories. I mean, because so I'm freaked out about fires.
Okay.
Like I don't want to die in a fire. So we're living in this thing. It's got gas heat. So I turn the heat off at night. Well, in Virginia, it gets pretty damn cold. We'd get in the single digits, teens at night. And we would I'd have a hoodie on. We'd be wearing those things. And I wouldn't have the heat on. We'd get up in the morning, it'd be like 45 degrees. It'd be like blowing out smoke. So I'd have to get up, turn the stove on, let it heat up before Cheryl would get out of bed. But man, we look back now and we just laugh. It was so much fun. Yeah. But when they're in your house, it sucks.
It was rough. It was very stressful.
Nobody's ever as clean.
No.
Nobody ever shows up on time or stays late. Or it's Yeah. So what was the best parts? I mean, obviously spending time with your dad, getting to learn, but
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, it was just great. Like, we had, obviously spent time together in a long time.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. And, just one-on-one time too, which was great.
Yeah.
My mom is a wonderful woman, but she
but still
dominates the space when she's around.
Yeah.
So when my dad and I, we got to just get to spend time together. And then, like, I think I'm a builder, like, right. By just archetype, so I'd like to build things, whether it be companies. I started by building furniture and then this house. And so like that part of it got to be like satisfy that creative part of me. That, being a CFO, there's some creative parts to it, but like you're still dealing with numbers and data most of the time. And so it's, it's pretty analytical. And so it's really nice to get the other side of the brain stimulated. So I think that was probably the best part.
So I know you probably can't give out, any information on your clients, stuff like that. So, but is there any what's like the funnest, I don't know if that's a word, but I always see is funnest business that you're actually kind of helping being a CFO? I mean, is it like the toy maker, or is it some guy doing something you would never think is a business? Or, I mean, there's so many businesses, people just forget that somebody's making that plant, right? That plastic plant, but we don't think about it.
It's unbelievable how many, it's like crazy how many different businesses there are. How would I tell this story? There was one business it was the best business I've ever seen. And it was the numbers were astronomical, and I didn't believe them because I was like, I've never seen anything like this. There's not going to happen. And it turned out it happened. It's in the event ticketing space.
No kidding.
Ticket resell. And it scaled to tens of millions of dollars in 12 months and had 80% margins.
Yeah.
And it was wild to watch that business. So that was one of the most interesting ones to see.
Well, I grew up in the lumber business, so I grew up on that side. So I always had this vision, somewhere you're making somewhere between 15 and 25% gross margins. It is shocking to me how many businesses are out there that make 100% margins. Like this stuff we wear, the margins on this stuff, you say, oh, it's 50% off. It's like, yeah, but they're still making 100%. There were things that I started learning as I got older. Like, I'm just shocked at some of the margins that some of these businesses make. Now, this stuff is hard to do, right? I mean, it requires massive scale. You got to have manufacturing equipment, but it is still.
It's like makeup. Like makeup business is unbelievable.
Cologne.
Yeah.
That's all in that same
category. It's crazy. The stuff they're paying $80-$100 for costs $4 to make. Landed cost.
Another one that people don't talk about, some vitamins. Like I take so many freaking. I'm the guy that oh, that's a great idea. I'm gonna buy those. I just take them for 6 months and I quit buying them. But I met a guy that did that and he made all his money and that's all he does. He just follows a trend of the next vitamin, manufactures them, dumps them. They've got the ratios down that Larry's going to sign off on this and he's going to stay on for 6 months. And they've got it down where there's 100%, then it goes to 83%, 71%, 51%, and they figure out, and then they cycle another one and they just do this over and over again.
Yeah, that's why I've been a CFO for a supplement company since it started.
Really?
It is just
It's a great business, especially
really well.
If you can do the ones that they stick and people stay with them.
This is one that they built a strong brand. It's done the right way.
They actually put out a good product,
a great product. They've done the research. They have very high standards for for testing and everything else. And so it's been sticky and it continue their customer value, lifetime customer value is strong.
Especially if you can get in the cult markets, because I did CrossFit, runners, anything athletic based. And I call them cults because I am one of those people. It is amazing. And they're loyal. Like once they figure out they like your product and then they tell all their friends, you have got a built-in system there. But they're, just so people realize they're putting out quality stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still no shortcuts. The really good businesses do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely people in that space that can, turn and burn, whatever you want to do it. But the ones that if you want longevity, if you want to create value in the business, like that, to have something that's actually sellable rather than just creating a cash machine. I think that's the difference.
So as you go through all these companies, we'll start talking about a little bit about business, that it doesn't have to be business all the time, is what do you see the biggest mistake most of them make? Undercapitalization, don't pay cash flow, bad debt. I mean, what do you think management styles obviously have a huge, people don't spend a lot of time talking about that, but it's obviously a big deal.
Yeah. So I've been doing this a long time, and I try to like see what works and what doesn't. And like, I would say almost like, I don't know what the percentage is, but I make it up. Like, I would say 75% of the issues are people issues. And a lot of times it's the CEO, right? There's some,
they just think
some blind spot that they have, and they're just not, the business is tapped out and they're causing some sort, there's something that's making it so, because business, if you just do it the right way and clean, and it just works. It's the only thing I've discovered that is like that. Maybe there's other things, but like if you just are in integrity, and there's, most of the things in business, unless you're like Elon Musk, someone else has already figured out how to do it.
That's right.
So it's like, you just have to go find the person that's already, and ask them, they'll usually tell you, and you like, just do what they've already done that works, and it works. But there's a lot of roadblocks from the people issues usually from doing that.
So I had to learn young. I told you, I think we were talking. I was a really bad manager when I was young. So I learned a lot, but I was able to figure that out. I was dedicated enough to figure that out. Do you find that some people just are never willing to figure that out because of their egos? You think sometimes? There's probably some of that, right? I think it aligns with personal growth, right? Like they've got to have the CEOs hit a wall, right? They hit a wall in terms of leadership. And unless they grow personally, they're not going to be able to even hear or see the solutions to their business problems. The business problems usually are a result of their limits personally. And so I just, it's whether they're willing to do that. And I think that's not a linear process. It's psychological, it's spiritual, it's, there's a lot of
physical, like
absolutely,
there's a lot of different pieces that are happening among the leadership of the companies. And so I think it's always possible, and you never know when you're going to have that breakthrough, and you never know when they're ready for that. Right. It's like
usually requires pain.
Oh yes.
Yeah, usually. Yeah. I find that, even our education system, you went to college and got this, so many now, they get this degree and they stop learning. And, for me, I've always just like, I'm learning all the time. And it's not like you think about, oh, well, I just remodeled this house or gutted a house and redid a house. You were learning. Like, sure, were you learning about being a CFO? No, but you were learning process. You understand. You're learning something that challenges your brain, cause you physical pain, probably smashing fingers, doing things. Probably cost you money, because we all go into these things and think, oh, it's going to cost me $50, and you're like, what do you mean it cost $12,000? I budgeted $6,000, and then the next thing you know, you thought you were going to spend $100, and you spend $175. Well, that causes pain, right? So it's all that same thing, and it's all business,
right? Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. I bought a little less than 100, and I spent almost 200.
That was ours. We pretty much doubled ours. Yeah. But we, because what happens is you're like, well, I could do this. And I'm sure I hope your planning was better than ours. We were like, oh, this is going to be great. And then you knock this wall out and you're like, well, no, but if I did this, well, this would look better. And then you're calculating, but then it just, you think, oh, it's 1,000 here, 5,000 here. And you do that 10 times. It adds up.
And and it was definitely a creative process. So I was like, I had an vision, but then vision was every day changing.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Cheryl, we were talking about something the other day, and she's like, we just need to put together a plan, and we just need to stick to it. I'm like, we've done this 3 times now. Plus, we're always building on our farm, building things. And we're constantly, I'm building a corral right now. I need to put a physical corral in. And she's like, why'd you do that? I'm like, well, I don't know. And then one of the guys that works there, he's like, well, I think we could do this. Next thing you know, you're pulling out posts and redoing it because you think it works until you put it up. How many things did you put in and it didn't work or didn't look good?
Definitely.
Well, that's the same thing in business, but you've got to be willing to pivot, be willing to make that admit you're wrong.
Absolutely.
And just move on. What I found is the guys I worked for in the past, so many of them were not willing to admit they were wrong. And I think that maybe it's a skill, but for me, you know, I use the term, you know, you just got to be okay being stupid. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, I messed up. Let's figure this out.
That was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn, because I just thought I was real smart. And I knew all the answers.
You talking about when you're in like San Diego, especially?
Yeah, younger
right?
years.
Yeah. Oh,
and I had some good feedback from some people I really respect, and they did it in a very like patient and kind way to be like, you know, like full of it.
Yeah.
Like you don't know the answers to some of these questions, and you're answering them. And like, do you realize you're doing that? And I was like, I actually did not know.
Yeah, you don't even know.
I didn't have awareness. It was
blind.
a blind spot to it.
Blind,
and now I'm like, oh, okay. Like I need to say I don't know, like a lot, like because I don't.
And just surround yourself with people that will tell you.
Yes.
I mean, it's so imperative. I mean, I get in arguments with the people. I have people that work for me for 25 years. You know, my thing is always like, if you don't agree with me, just tell me. Now, you're going to probably make me mad, or you may not make me mad. You know, I don't get as mad now because I'm older, but I just want to know. Like, well, I knew, I just didn't want to tell you. I'm like, well, then that's your fault.
Right.
Like, you need to tell me.
Yes.
You know, I'm not going to fire you for it. You've been here for 18 years. Why
right.
am I going to fire you for telling me one thing? You know, and trying to teach people. Are you able to have influence with some of the CEOs because you're so close to them? You feel like, I mean, mentor some of them?
Some of them, yeah. I mean, it, you know, there's just depends on, each one's a little bit different, but like that's half of what I'm doing is like, you know, working with the leadership team, helping them, coaching them a little bit, because I'm a fractional CFO and I'm not a full-time employee and I'm a C-level suite. I'm actually like they're able to share things with me that they can't share with anyone else. Right, because it's like.
So what is, you said a C-level suite?
C-suite.
C-suite. So what does that mean?
Just anyone in your C-level, like a chief, like CEO, COO, CHR.
All right, gotcha.
There's a million of them now.
Okay, yeah, I knew. Okay, I'd never heard that, so that's why I was asking. Okay, so you're able to, but because they can use you as a confidant, they can tell you. Obviously, they can't hide a lot from you because you're seeing the books,
right?
Okay. Do you ever take points, or do you raise flags? Say like, hey, whoa, you're burning through cash. Here's your cash flow project. I mean, you.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's definitely my job.
Yeah, I would think so.
I've been called dream killer. I've been called, you know, a lot of bad names, and
buzz killer.
They do.
I always like that one.
Some people be like, I really don't like meeting with you, but like the data is the data. And, you know, my job, I cannot sugarcoat it. Like, you know, and a lot of times you have a lot of people that they're not strong enough, or like they've tried to stand up and feedback and it didn't go anywhere, so they just gave up. And I realized that like that's not my role. Like my role, like I'm not doing them any favors if I'm not like confronting them and, you know, like really challenging them on a lot of things where I see the gaps.
I started my business in 2000, and I'm about 6 months in and I'm freaking broke. Like I had more than enough money to do this. I borrowed money, got an equity partner, and I'm broke. And I got my dad at my house. I'm working out of literally a closet that's literally like 5 foot wide,
right?
And behind the laundry room. And I'm in there with my dad, and it's late at night. My dad's literally one of the smartest people I know. And we were sitting there. I'm like, Dad, these numbers, they can't be right. It says I'm losing all this money. And he goes, well, you are. I'm like, no, I know I'm not. And he goes, son, the numbers don't lie. You know, the data is the data. You know, basically is what he was telling me. And I was a moment in my life, and I was young still. I mean, a little bit older than you at the time. I think I was 33 maybe at the time, 34. You know, I got a wife, 3 kids. I mean, I'm in the fight, right? And I'm broke. Like, I don't even know I'm going to make freaking payroll. And I'll never forget that, man. I was losing money, but I was growing the business, doing all these great things. But at the end of the day, I was still not making any money because all I was doing was looking at my checkbook. I was looking at the financials. I built the financials, but I just couldn't believe it, right? And then my dad's like, no, you look at this. And that was that moment. And then I flipped, and that's when I doubled down, figured things out. And I was like, I'll never be surprised. And I learned at that moment, and I built the financials based on that. But from that point forward, even to this day, I have like perfect financials. They're accurate. They're not always perfect looking because they may be ugly some months because we don't always make money.
Right.
But the data is accurate. And anybody who runs a business that comes to me, the first thing I tell them is, I said, you build perfect financials. I built my financials based on, $50 million company, and I was doing $1.5 million.
Right. So you have the expense structure of $50 million.
But the structure, like I use QuickBooks, which I'm sure a lot of your clients, great accounting system. My balance sheets are accurate. Everything tracks. I've got coding for everything, everybody's payroll. You know, you build it from that way from the beginning, it just gets easier.
Well, and it's another way to be held accountable, right? We were talking earlier about sometimes you have people around you that won't hold you accountable. Well, like the numbers, if you have honest numbers, they will hold you accountable if you understand what you're looking at. And so that's another thing I help with education, right? Because like you were saying, like we learned to balance a checkbook, right? But it's cash in, cash out. That's not necessarily when your business starts to grow and really grow, you can grow yourself out of business.
Most people I learned that too.
Yeah. And so understanding cash and accrual accounting and understanding a P&L and a balance sheet and cash flow, like those are things that like, you know, maybe you can hustle your way to $1 million bucks in
fake
revenue,
it till you make it,
something, but like
I
you
hate
can't
that term.
you get stuck. And so like, and even if I get people all the time, I'm not a numbers CEO, and that's not my strength. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like you need to get the basics.
Be.
You have to be, or like
you better be.
Get out of that role because like, you know, you're going to hurt a lot of people in your bank account.
I did my third or fourth year, I don't remember, third, fourth, fifth year in business. I did $5.5 million in sales and I made a profit. And I'd been profitable for the most part. You know, depreciation helped me obviously from a tax standpoint. But I can remember looking at these numbers and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm just not making that much money. So I stopped, slowed everything down, put in a bunch more procedures and data and tracking, pulled my sales back by at least, I think it was over $1 million and made more money.
Yeah.
And that was another time. I think I was about 4 or 5 years in. That was another. It's like, it's not about sales, how high. Like I just like, oh, the bigger you bid, you know, oh, if I do 10 million, I'm going to make $1 million. If I make 20 million, I'll make 2 million. No, that's not how it works.
No.
So what I learned was now I stay in my lane. I have a very straightforward business. I stay within a certain percentage of sales and I drive margins and I drive profitability, not like, oh, well, I did, you know, $25 million this year. No, I want to know how much money I made this year, not how much my top line said.
Absolutely. I mean, they're both important, but like that bottom line is what really, like at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's like, and, you know, that scaling back, you know, not only you can scale back and stay there, but like that also is I've seen that. And that is the next step to scaling.
That's right.
Like sometimes like you've got to take a step back. You've got to slow down. You've got to like create systems because you've outgrown everything and everything's broken.
And I was chasing my tail. I was hiring all these people. I was just constantly chasing my tail and was never really building anything.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's neat that you get to do that all the time. You know, that's actually got to be fun.
I love learning. Like that's what I've realized is motivating me. Like, you know, even more than money. Like I enjoy it. Money
it's a tool.
Yeah. But, and so I just get to learn so much, right? And I had never done manufacturing and I just recently started with a decent sized manufacturing company up in, Minnesota. And it is fascinating. I mean, it's different. Like it is like,
Have you got to go there yet?
Oh yeah. A bunch of times.
See, I'm in manufacturing. So I'm like, I think it's the coolest thing ever. Like, and I love going to any manufacturer. Have you got to go to an Amazon facility?
No.
Like, so I think you're down here. I was thinking there's one up in Chesterfield area, Petersburg area up there. So maybe next time. So all you do is you just schedule it in advance. You do it months in advance and it's free.
Oh.
And you go through these things. Tyler, it's like, it will make you realize like why Amazon is the monster that they are, but it's a form of manufacturing. It's processes.
Right.
Man, I've been to 2 of them.
Wow.
Just to try it. I'm sure there's several down here, but just go on their website and there's free public tours and you just show up. They give you a badge. You walk in this little group of people and there's small facilities. I haven't been to I think they call them large package facilities now because, you know, now they're shipping everything.
Right.
That one's supposed to be totally different. But the amount of robotics and systems, but the way they process, it's freaking like, you know, when you're sitting there and you use Amazon, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you hit it and it goes, your order's being processed. That thing is already on a queue somewhere, you know, and you're probably getting stuff same day or next day.
Yeah.
We just started getting stuff next day where we live.
Okay.
And it's like, how?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll order something at 10 in the morning and it'll be there at 2 o'clock.
Yeah. How is that possible? But if you go in there and see it, you're like, oh, now I know why they're taking over the world, because they have got this system down. Yeah. Bezos is rich for a reason. And now that he's getting to talk more, if you ever watch some of his stuff, he's a pretty good leader too. You know, he actually kind of knows what he's doing. He really built things on people, which, you know, I have the same thing as you. It's like people. I mean, there are times I just wished I had freaking nobody. And then there are times I wished I had robots. But then when you have people like me that have been there for 25 years, then you love the people. So it's that balance, right? It's really what you're saying is you just want to get rid of all the bad people. And then like for me, I've literally got people that have been there since they were 18 years old. So I see these people and they were kids. I was a lot younger.
Right.
You know, they still look the same to me and maybe I don't, but it's just fun. But then there's that rewarding side of it, is that's the other side. That's my greatest success, is that I have people that have worked for me for 25 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. And I think I feel like I'm ready to lead people again. It's been a long journey to get to there, but I need to get rid of the bad people. Like I think I was the bad person. like not totally. Like maybe that's dramatic.
Maybe you
like,
weren't. No, but I know what you're saying.
Wasn't ready to lead a bigger organization. I took it to where I could get it to, and I needed to like learn.
If you can find the right people, it's awesome, because they're literally family that you don't have to deal with their family stuff, right? I mean, it's like I have all these amazing people that I work with, but I don't know a lot about some, you know, they got kids that make them mad and doing stupid stuff, you know, but they don't bring that where, you know, my kids are like, oh, Dad, this kid, like, you know? But with employees, it's an incredibly gratifying thing. So yeah, maybe it's time you do that.
Yeah. My plan is to purchase something next year.
Good.
I'm not sure what.
Good. We'll exchange numbers after this, and then you can call me. I love looking at stuff.
Okay.
My fun thing is I love looking at business. I don't really want to expand my businesses anymore, but if you ever have anything, I'd love to just, you can send it to me. I just love looking at stuff, and especially if it's something I don't know anything about.
Right.
Yeah,
Me too.
Well, we're burning up all of our time, as it always goes so fast. So I always end this with my final question is, though, do you think you were born or do you think you were made?
I think I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
You're 100%. Only number 3.
Really?
That's awesome. Yeah, I get excited. You're like, yeah, absolutely. Okay. You think you were born. Yeah. So tell me why. I mean, just what do you think it is? It like your parents? You were born because you were good looking? I mean, what do you think it was? I mean,
because born for the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah,
yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't, the earliest memories, I was always thinking like an entrepreneur. Like I would used to host, I would make all my neighbors get together, and I wrote and produced a play when I was like 7. And then I would charge all my parents for tickets. You know, I was 7 years old. I had no idea what I was doing.
Really?
And, I started a baseball card trading business with my 6th grade teacher. And so I don't know. It was always just what I did. I mean, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family also, but there was just no doubt in my mind ever that was like who I was and what my path was.
That's cool. I love that. I wish I could say that. I kind of was both. I'm starting, as I hear your answers, and I heard someone else's, I've actually heard your only third one. I'm starting to like, yeah, maybe I really just was born. Because I definitely was that way from a very early stage. Mm-hmm. We just didn't use that term entrepreneur. That term really never became really popular until 20, 30 years ago. So that's cool. Now you got me thinking about it. That's cool.
Yeah. And just working with hundreds of entrepreneurs too.
Absolutely.
I think people are varying degrees of whether they're visionary or integrators or, what roles they're playing in kind of the entrepreneurial journey. And there's different varying degrees. But why I say that is I think there's just some people that I can just like, this is like, you should not be an entrepreneur, like 100%. Like there's no and they just, it's just, they weren't born with what the kind of the foundation, in my opinion. I can be wrong. I'm wrong.
You
all the
are
time.
Right. Because there are people that I know that they're like, oh, I'm going to do this. I was like, well, it's not a good idea.
You can be a great employee. Like you're going to be,
and you can make still a lot of money.
Right.
And you'll be fine. But they've definitely oversold this entrepreneur thing.
And I'd be a pretty bad employee, right? Like so that's the way I look at it.
You would be more so now.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Sometimes I wouldn't just mind being an employee.
Yeah.
There's been times when I couldn't make payroll. you know, I'm like grinding, trying to figure out everything. I'm like, you know, it wouldn't be so bad just to be the guy on the other side collecting a check.
Yep.
But it's, you know, that's what we sign up for when we do this journey, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it. And that's okay. Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Tyler. It's great seeing you. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for being on the Born or Made podcast.
Thank you so much. Been a pleasure.